Yeah. Click. Mic check. Yeah. Region Weekly. Deep inundation. Break it down simple. Demystify the system. Demystify deep in. Tap and tune in. Noise online. Yeah, the whole net moving. Bills get passed. Yeah, we track that movement. Region space drop. Alpha prove it. Macro talk, but we still stay winning. Gotta go up when the crowd start listening. From the chain to the world we bridging. Deep in the connection, yeah, we building. Yeah. We don't chase hype, we decode systems. Congress floor, yeah, we read legislation. Bills get signed, market shift quick. Policy change, we already on it. CPIs, rate cuts pending. Fed chair talk, got the charts all bending. Infrastructure plays, long-term vision. Deep in those, get real permission. Fiber lines run through.
Hey, what's up, guys? It is Thursday, February 26th. Oh, Robert says sixth song. I agree, man. Somebody from the community made that song. For our Thursday space we host every Thursday. I'm one of the co-hosts for Demystifying DeepIn. Oh, is my audio? Yeah, audio is good. Cool. Guys, never a dull day in crypto. We had yesterday, I talked to her 2 days ago, I guess. I talked about the Jane Street situation. Obviously, that was all over the timeline yesterday. Yeah, we also talked about the fact that Zach XBT was going to be launching the details of his investigation. This came out today, too. So we'll cover that as well. As the Clarity Act, we have some developments there. A little back and forth with Sam Bankman-Fried and Cynthia Lummis. So that was kind of funny. I'm going to talk about a couple of the scalps I've had trading Bitcoin recently, some really successful trades on gold and silver. Also, want to show you some of the books that I read last year that's been really paying dividends, man. I've been making quite a bit of money on some of these trades, both longing and shorting the markets. But I'll tell you, the more you can read and fill up your knowledge base, man, it can pay off in a big way. Of course, we're talking about the AI agents. It's where the real alpha is. Man, there are some crazy returns taking place right now. Some of the agents I've been covering over the last month are up, 20x plus, and I think they have plenty of room to run. And then I'll dig into the deep inside of things and some of the projects. One of the big projects, I'm wearing my 375 AI shirt right now, baby. They shipped a big update today, so we got in on their beta. I'm going to talk a little bit about that and why I think there's so much upside here. I don't know why the market's missing it, man. But once things take off, there's no looking back. These are some prime accumulation zones right now with the market down. But I think we have some generational opportunities in front of us. Even though the market's been choppy, has sucked, it's been down, there are some diamonds in the rough if you're looking in the right place. And that is the key, obviously. I do want to talk about some of the books I read last year. I have it narrowed down to a handful that I think can pay off in a big way. One of the things this year that I've really been focusing on is having a more well-rounded approach to my investment strategy. Because, let's be real, a couple of years ago, going into 2024, I did a very good job positioning myself in the right deep-in projects that has some crazy returns. Of course, it's one thing to be positioned in. It's another thing to understand market psychology and knowing when the market's overheated, when to take chips off the table. And that's something I studied a lot last year is market psychology. So I feel we're really well prepared from that standpoint moving forward. The other part is really finding the alpha in the market. And I think we've done so several times now and are doing so right now with AI agents. But there's always rotations in the market, even in downtimes where you see a lot of the social activity taking place, a lot of the money rotating into. And I think you're selling yourself short if you're not capitalizing on those opportunities. So that's something that I've been, especially over the last 6 to 9 months, really taking advantage of those rotations, those capital rotations, trying to get ahead of it and finding out how to, drown out the noise and find the real opportunities. So talk a little bit about that. And then lastly, the newer thing I've really been focusing on is finding ways to trade the majors, gold, silver, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana. Because if you're only long in this market, you're kind of doomed. If you really look at the opportunities in crypto, the massive returns happen generally in small amounts of time. they don't come all that frequently. So you have to find a way, if you really want to capitalize, in my opinion, to play the market in all conditions. And that means being able to make money even when the market's going down. So I want to highlight a few of these books. And for those that are new and watching, last year I implemented a strategy of reading 10 pages minimum per day. Okay, it could be any book you want. I did a lot of macro books last year, macroeconomics, but a wide range of topics. And I think setting a goal like that's pretty easy to follow and stick to. And then it becomes kind of addictive because you don't want to miss a day, right? So I log this stuff every day, making sure that I'm reading. But I would say the easiest book to read that I think was of most value is this Lords of Easy Money. So really good macro book, highly, highly recommend. Gives you a really good background on our Federal Reserve and the money printing strategy that started back in 2008. Goes through a lot of our Fed chairmen and kind of understanding their history. And again, this stuff gives you a really good concept of how the central banks work, how global finance works, so that when you see a news event, you can make money off of it. You can trade it. And a lot of what I did last year is filling up that last 2 years really is getting that knowledge base now, putting it into action. This one, Collusion, was kind of a tougher read, but was really instrumental in me understanding how the global Federal Reserves and central banks interact with each other and how to understand the strength of currencies against each other. And a lot of like what I've been doing with the gold and silver trade really is built off of that knowledge. And understanding, like, I'll give you an example. A couple of weeks ago, and I've covered this extensively, a lot of this stuff, but, Russia came out in, it was like a Bloomberg article, said that they were going to start using US dollars again for international energy trade. That was a huge, huge announcement. And on top of that, we had several announcements about Trump backing off on aluminum and steel tariffs and getting to an agreement on the Taiwan trade agreement. So to me, those are all things that restore faith in the dollar. There's less uncertainty. Obviously with BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, they've been de-dollarizing. So a statement like that from Russia is huge. That restores confidence in the US dollar, into DXY, which is the strength of the dollar against other currencies. And that is obviously a reason to sell off on the debasement trade. So that's a very obvious short of silver and gold, right? Where people have been flooding because they're trying to run away from the US dollar and there's no other fiat people feel confident in. That printed. And like reading these types of books, having that knowledge base. So when you see something like that in the news, obviously Twitter is the first place that it gets posted. Being able to act quickly is really instrumental. Because in some of these trades, like I'm entering and it's like 30 minutes where I'm like, man, am I right here? Like, why is it taking so long for the market to realize this? And then sure enough, boom, it hits, 30 minutes after the news breaks, the market kind of figures it out. Another one I highly encourage you to read is The Big Print. Okay. So this is by Lawrence Lepard and really goes into the history of currency, how we're going to have to continue printing, how the big print is still here, is still going to come. It hasn't happened yet. Really, these central banks have no choice but to keep printing money. Obviously, asset value should continue to move up, especially Bitcoin in the longer term. And then this one's really good, How to Listen When Markets Speak. So that one is Lawrence McDonald. This one was really good in understanding not just Bitcoin, but like commodities in general. It's a reason why I made a lot of money in my retirement accounts last year on the energy trade, which I still think has plenty of room to run with the AI data center and the power capacity issue on the grid. But entering into some of the nuclear investments I was in last year, you look at like natural gas, copper shortages that are coming up, really good book for understanding commodities. And again, like I was able to really get positioned ahead of the market on a lot of those plays. So those are all books. Highly encourage you all to check out. And then more recently, it's a little personal. This book was really cool. Eat, Drink, and Be Healthy. And been always, I get in the gym and all that, but I've never really had my diet dialed in. So that was a really good read on understanding like the Mediterranean diet, cutting out saturated fats, like butter, getting into like olive oil and healthy fats like your avocados, focusing on your grains, your whole grains that are low on the glycemic index, cutting out red meat to an extent as much as possible, and really focusing on fish and poultry and stuff. So that's been a really good. My energy levels are crazy good, and that was a really good read as well. But I encourage you to try to incorporate reading every day, whether that means waking up a little early in the morning and instead of scrolling on social media, you're taking 10 minutes, man. It's not hard. You can knock out 10 pages pretty easily. With that said, let's break into the news, guys. This is the big news of the day, right? Everyone was like waiting for this. We covered it on Tuesday that Thursday was the big day. Of course, Meteora was who everyone expected it to be. That was the front runner on Polymarket, on the betting markets, but it ended up being Axiom. So apparently there was at least one employee. They say multiple employees. He said, "Cut out the red meat. Sounds like some commie hipster propaganda." Not to get sidetracked here, but brother, so that is saturated fat. And also, even if you do like the lean meats, right? A lot of the red meat today is not based, is not grass fed. You have them, being fed with feed. It's not the same nutritional value as red meat used to be. And ultimately, if you look at the studies, man, red meat's not very good for you. I love my red meat. Don't get me wrong. It's not like I've cut it out 100%, but it's not all that good for you to eat all the time. So sorry if that's hippie propaganda, brother. It's the truth. All right, back to the news here. Axiom, allegedly, there's multiple employees that were caught insider trading. They're basically front running trades, looking at people's positions, having insight into people's individuals, positions on their exchange. And actually, I will say their CEO came out and acknowledged it. He's like, "I want to directly address this recent incident." And goes on to admit that it happened. He said, and individuals. So he's not saying multiple. He says one individual here did violate their internal policies. Their access has been immediately revoked, and we've implemented additional safeguards to prevent this from happening again. I don't know, man. You guys might be cooked after this one. We'll see. But this was kind of wild. Okay, so I posted this on my account earlier. That yes, indeed, it was Axiom. But if you look at this, leading up to the announcement, somebody had some insider information here. I think it's very obvious. We don't know who it is. Is it someone that knows ZachCPT, or could it be the Axiom employees? Because strangely enough, there were a couple of Axiom employees that were posting specifically about the Polymarket odds. Like, "Oh man, it can't be us, blah, blah, blah," like pushing the odds down. I wouldn't be surprised if they knew they were about to get exposed, and actually the insiders that were about to get exposed for insider trading were also insider trading on Polymarket about being exposed. I know, man, like some crazy shit there. Like, let that simmer for a second. But only in crypto can this stuff happen. Pretty wild stuff there. All in all, kind of a nothing burger. I think everyone expected to be a lot bigger. I'm not going to talk about Jane Street today. I talked about that a lot on Tuesday. Everyone, I'll say this much. Everyone was like convinced, like, "Oh my God, the selling at 10 a.m. is over. Like, we're going to new all-time highs." And then today, like 10 a.m. hit huge sell-off. Guys, it's not that crazy. New York Open happens right around that time, generally in that first 30 minutes. If people are exiting, institutional investors are exiting their positions, you're going to see a sell-off there. Like, that's why it's so critical. If you're trying to trade these markets, pay attention to New York Open. Also pay attention on Sundays to CME Open, Sunday night. Those are really critical to see what is happening. How is the market trending? What can you expect throughout the day? Clarity Act. Guys, we're seeing things tick up. So they're meeting on this right now. It sounds like they're getting closer. Of course, President Trump put out a March 1st deadline to get this thing done. Or at least have it move forward in a big way, I suppose. But 69%, nice. Let's see. We have, if you look at Kalshi, 70% before 2027. How about that? And 53% before June. So that's fantastic news. If we get that across the finish line, that would be huge. We need a little bit more regulation, I have to say, on the exchanges, especially with these market makers, what they're doing. I think there's manipulation taking place. It's a question of, is it illegal? It would be great to put a stop to most of that. I think the Clarity Act can certainly help. And the bigger impact here, of course, is that a lot of the institutional investors, serious investors, have lost trust in the space. When you had October 10th, I've covered this ad nauseum, but when you have Binance internal pricing glitch cause the catastrophic event that we saw on October 10th, largely they caused it, and then saw the contagion across crypto. And since you've seen these market makers just manipulating up and down, trying to liquidate people, I think this would go a long way in restoring some trust in crypto, bring some serious investors back into the fold. But look at this. Cynthia Lummis, of course, has been very instrumental out of Wyoming for moving crypto forward. We had Sam Bankman-Fried, who's lobbying to get pardoned from Trump. The White House came out yesterday or 2 days ago, and they're like, yeah, not happening. But he came out and said, the Clarity Act will be a huge milestone for crypto and a huge achievement for Donald Trump. I was championing a similar bill to get crypto out of Gensler's hands when Gensler helped Biden's DOJ put me behind bars. Well, obviously, they don't want to have any connection to Sam Bankman-Fried on this. Cynthia Lummis said as much. Said someone's looking for a pardon and doesn't realize the Clarity Act would have locked you up. Oh, man, shots fired. Locked you up for much longer than 25 years. My legislation couldn't be more different than the bill you tried to buy from Congress over my objection in 2022. We do not need nor want your support. So shots fired there from Cynthia Lummis at Sam Bankman-Fried. Pretty funny stuff there, man. Gosh, sometimes you just got to get the popcorn out and watch your timeline because there's crazy shit. Let's talk about Bitcoin a little bit. The trend we're seeing. Y'all, until we see a major reversal, my base case is a bear case. I think we see further downside. Until the charts show us differently, I don't think anyone should be coming out here and saying they're super bullish and that they expect a ton of upside right now. For me, and I've said this many times, but 72,000 is really that critical level to break out of the downtrend. 74,000 is the number I'm really looking at, though, if I want to get aggressive on any longs. Of course, 74 is that number that was broken after the last election. Okay, directly after the last election, that's when we broke out. It was also retested on Liberation Day, our favorite day, when Trump came out with his outrageous 150% tariffs on everybody and crashed the market. We retested that level then. Of course, we recently broke below, and we've been, in hell ever since. So until we break back above there, I'll continue trading ranges. I've been actually successfully doing that, having really tight stop losses. For example, earlier today, hit one on Ethereum. We broke above 2,000, which we had broken below. We had a little bit of strength coming above, just scalped it real quick, man. I traded NVIDIA earnings yesterday after the market closed. Real quick pump, so I played it. Tight stop losses. So if it doesn't trend the way I'm expecting, very minimal loss, but letting it play out, scalping a win, on longing and shorting, whether it be gold, whether it be silver, Bitcoin, Ethereum. I'm waiting, though, for something very actionable because there's just not been a lot of great structure. The last ones were really gold. When we broke above 5,100, that was a really good breakout. When the Supreme Court ruled against Trump's tariffs, again, some of this was the reading I had done, in these books I showed you, but I'd also extensively covered the tariff ruling. We knew the Supreme Court was expected to rule against them. It's like 75% likelihood. So that wasn't a shock to anyone. I think a lot of the market, though, for whatever reason, was like, this is going to be so bullish for crypto. And if you dug in a little bit further, you knew they would have a backup plan, right? Like the Trump administration came out and already said that they were going to institute tariffs under a different mechanism. And of course, then you have uncertainty, right? Like I covered this too. Like there are all these companies that have billions of dollars in lawsuits to recapture the tariff money they've paid. We have, depending on who the source is, Bloomberg says $5 trillion. The White House says $9 trillion of investment from other countries into the US based on the negotiations. And all that's in question now, So what happens when you have that much uncertainty? And then Trump coming out and saying, oh, we're doing 10% tariffs, and an hour later, actually 15%. And everyone's just like, bro, we went through this all last year. What the hell? Well, I was like, okay, gold and silver. People are leaving the dollar after that shit again. And it was a very obvious long on both. And we've seen a nice trend up ever since. And then once we broke around above 5,100, felt pretty confident in the gold long. So those were pretty easy trades, really, and very much inverse to DXY. So, if you can pull these macro events in, understanding how it's going to impact DXY, the value of the dollar versus other currencies, you can pretty easily trade gold and silver based off of that knowledge. So, I would say, try to get well versed as much as possible if that's your forte, of course. If not, actually, something I want to talk about today is focusing on the things that are your strengths. Like macroeconomics is one of my strengths. I'm not a dev though. That's not one of my strengths, but I'm still making money on the AI agent scene that's happening right now. And actually, that's the next thing I want to talk about. So let me pull this down real quick. There's been a lot of people that are out there like, man, anybody can code now. Now that you have AI and you have Claude, and I'm like, bro, I don't know how to code. Like, I'm not a dev. I'm sure I could take some courses and learn enough to be dangerous and mess around and figure some shit out. Okay. But there are a lot of devs out there that have been doing this all their life that are leaps and bounds ahead and now using AI. And I mean, the catch up just probably would never happen. Let's be real. It's not my strength. So I was thinking about, taking a course, and I'm like, shit, I'm just going to lean in on what I'm really good at, which is macroeconomics, finding deep in projects, hidden gems when the market's down and finding crazy returns on those. And then I'll find other devs that are really good at doing that are good at their jobs, and invest in them. Right. Same thing with like trading, by the way. Like I know enough to be dangerous and scalp some trades, but none of these are any ones that I'm going in with serious size. But I found arguably the best trader over the last year and a half. He's touching grass right now, but this guy made over $100 million last year, right? He shorted the Trump inauguration. He hit on Aster. He hit on Plasma. He hit on Zcash, gold, silver, you name it. I'm in his Discord group. Okay, so for me, like I'm learning his system. But before I go into with any major size, I'm making sure that, it's something that he has high conviction for too, because he's literally the GOAT over the last year. There's nobody better. So, find the things that you're really good at, lean into those, and then find other people that are really, really good at what they do and lean into that. And I'm doing the same thing with these AI agents. So I'm going to highlight a few of these, a handful of these that have done really well. And I think have a lot of movement and a lot of legs still under them. And I'm going to give you the formula as to how I'm finding them as well. Okay. So Kelly Claude was the first one. I came up on Jaja Bag said, playing your strengths is legit strat. Hell yeah, man. You got to do it. You got to find out what you're really good at and lean into those skill sets, man. And whatever it is, it doesn't have to be in finance shit. You can make money in most things. So as long as it's legal, keep it legal, guys. All right. So Kelly Claude was the first one I came across. This is like a month ago. And it was very interesting. And for one, right, this thing was, if you look at the post, they were creating applications through this AI agent. And I had invested in virtuals a bit in the ecosystem like a little over a year ago when it was going crazy. As it turned out, most of those were just like automated bots, right? There's nothing there. This was really interesting to me because this thing was actually shipping, like creating apps. And if you click in the profile, it has a doxed dev. Okay. And This dev in particular has 451,000 followers. It's like, okay. This is something to really pay attention to. This guy is very reputable. He's a sharp cat, and he created this AI agent. Now, when I actually realized that I was onto something, because I was investing in these things and messing around, I was at ETH Denver, and I happened to be at the main stage. And sure enough, Jesse Pollock came on stage. You might have seen this post from me. And he was talking about the AI agents, which was all the rave at ETH Denver this year. I know a lot of people didn't have a great time there. I will say it was like the attendance was low. Weren't a ton of vendors there. I mean, you could walk the floor in like all of 15 minutes, but there were some solid sessions. I'll say that much. And this was one of them I just happened upon because I don't even think he was supposed to speak. But he got up there and they're asking him about AI agents. And he literally mentioned Kelly Claude and Austin, the developer. I was like, okay, time to double down on this stuff. So this one in particular has been developing apps, finally got some apps that were approved by the Apple App Store, starting to generate revenue. There's 5 more being reviewed right now and many more in the hopper. And if you look at the trajectory of the revenue on this thing, because imagine like this is an AI agent that's just gonna be able to constantly churn out applications that they can monetize. Legit dev, right? You can see the trajectory here, which is massive. The other part of this, though, which is very noteworthy, I'd say, this guy was like, hey, any token burn in the pipeline? Kelly Claude responded, said, I've been burning every day. You can see it by looking at my wallet. So I want to show you guys how you can find that. If you go to basescan.org, and then you go over to, the bird's eye, there's different, you can use Dex Screener or whatever. But you can go to its profile, copy the address right here. It's also, by the way, in the profile. They have them in the profile on X. So get the address there. Just go ahead and copy and paste that in there. And then if you click on the ERC tracker, let me zoom in here so you can see this. Click on there, and then you go to holders. Okay, and then if you scroll down here, you'll see the wallet that says dead. That's the burn wallet. So you can see for any of these, and this is true of any project too, by the way, because a lot of DePIN projects are structured similarly, where as revenue comes in, they burn tokens. So you can see how many tokens they burn. I mean, 0.45% of the total supply has already been burned to this point. As revenue ramps up, more and more tokens will be burned. That's how all of these are structured, including the next one I'm going to talk about. But when you look at Kelly Claude, the fact that they're starting to get apps approved now, revenue is about to start ramping. A notable dev who is mentioned by Jesse Pollock with Base at ETH Denver, and it's sitting at an 8.349 million market cap. Okay, and this thing did ramp up to like 20 million at one point, or maybe 16.6 million. So this is one like, hey, I think there's some room to potentially run here. While everyone's like rotating through these different AI agents, these bullshit ones on virtuals that are just like basically AI agents that are a meme coin that aren't really doing anything. You have these that are actually doing something. The next one, so of course that's Kelly Claude. The next one I came across, because it had some overlap with Kelly Claude, was Felix. So the things, again, on these, like you see here, the dev is listed in here. The follower account's growing. The holder account's growing. Those are all things you want to pay attention to, the token holder account. And then the dev, fully doxed. Again, this guy has 90,000 followers. He also just launched, let me pull this over. There you go. There's the dev. 90,000 followers. And if you look at the dashboard that was just created by this AI agent, check out the revenue figures. So right now, hitting about $10,000 a day in revenue, pretty solid trajectory. And this thing is launching businesses, okay? To the extent that today we saw this post from this guy. He said, I thought OpenClaw hype was fading, but this guy created ClawMart, an app store for AI assistants, and it made $18,000 in 7 days. He also created an AI entrepreneur named Felix Craft AI that ships startups for him. Okay, so who is this guy? Well, this guy has 293,000 followers. here's his page here. Okay. And he created this Trust MRR. If you scroll down on this, by the way, he calls this out. Now ranking number 3 on Trust MRR's OpenClaw startup. So if we go to that, sure enough, man, ClawMart is listed here as one of the top revenue producers. And of course, the founder here is Felix. So it's all interconnected. You see what this thing is shipping, and you're getting eyeballs from Web2 people with huge accounts that are posting about it. Nat was also just interviewed on a massive YouTube channel. And sure enough, we see Felix has been running quite nicely. This is one that I started covering at 300,000 market cap. So we just hit 6 million earlier, pulled back a little bit, but 20x in the last month. Guys, like this thing, if it does, hits 30 million market cap, which as these are starting to get more and more eyeballs, more big accounts following them, that would be, our next 100x. It's been a little bit since we've had 100x, but imagine, go from 300,000 to 30 million market cap, and they could have more upside from there. I don't know, but these are the plays right now. Again, when I talk about on one side of things, looking for the potential trade strategies in the majors, but the other is looking at the capital rotations. I mean, we're here. It's happening right now. So Felix, you have Kelly Claude, and comparing the two, I thought this is a good analysis I saw earlier, because Felix, of course, is sitting at just around a $5.3 million market cap. Kelly Claude's at right around 8 million right now. And this analysis was talking about, I love Felix and what Nat's doing, of course, the dev. And he said, there's a large difference in the quality of revenue that is being generated by the two. Felix is mostly generated via Nat's personal brand and existing connections. Kelly, revenue solely based on the quality of apps. So the people buying don't even know anything about Kelly Claude or Austin or agents or crypto. Both will continue to do well, but the TAM are orders of magnitude different. I have to agree, but he did say this. This is based on current revenue sources. Felix could expand its TAM into new areas. So I think that's accurate. I think Kelly Claude, as of right now, probably does have more upside because they can keep shipping apps. People are using that, and the revenue is coming from people that don't have to know it's from crypto at all. So that is a sizable difference, but I think both have tremendous upside. I'll say that much from here. This one burst onto the scene just in the last week. So Juno, again, same recipe here, growing follower count, doxed founder. And here's our founder here, 26,300 followers. How did I come across this one? Well, there's overlap with the other two. So once you find a couple of these, then you can start seeing, interesting. There's other devs that are working with them, right? There's some crossover here. In this case, he's talking about, I wish if you could watch what I'm watching right now, gobsmacked, pretty confident what Kelly Claude is doing for mobile apps. Juno, this agent he created, has just how to do the same for companies. I don't think that's proper, but he's saying he's doing the same thing for companies. Interesting. So there's crossover there. There's also happens to be crossover with Felix and Nat, the dev over there. And it turns out they go back quite a bit to 2021. So there's quite a bit of overlap between all three of these. So this one burst on the scene recently, and we are sitting at right now if you refresh this, $1.55 million market cap. Of course, not long ago, back on Saturday, or I guess Sunday, sitting at 243,000. So, I mean, you're talking about what, a 7x roughly in all 5 days. So another example of, finding these things early, really paying attention, how that can pay off. And I also will say, I think there's more upside still, potentially a lot of upside from here. I'll give you another one, Osobot. So same dealio, right? Growing followers, doxed dev, has had a little bit of overlap with the others. And this guy is a dev for MetaMask. Also has some overlap, which I'm going to show you in a second, with some pretty large companies. And he's solving the wallet problem for AI agents. And this is something I saw in a lot of presentations at ETH Denver, which was, hey, we're giving access to these AI agents to these crypto wallets, how do we create scope that limits what they can spend and when they can spend it? And that's what they are working on here. This guy with MetaMask with this bot. And if you look here, this is a pretty big account. Oh, never mind. It's not as big as I thought. 22,500. But talking about 2 weeks later, 48,000 in earnings. Oso bot, congratulations on breaking $100,000 in fees, making 3 commitments to Ethereum Foundation repos, and onboarding the masses to ERC 7710. Of course, again, this is talking about introducing scope for AI agents on their wallets. Let's see here. So if we look at this one, Consensus. That's what I want to show you. Consensus. Okay, they have this is a Consensus MetaMask, right? Consensus is a massive company. So you see all the ties here and what they're working on. I think this could be absolutely huge. And well, we are pulled back here. This one hasn't really taken off in a big way yet. We got up to, what was the market cap that I got up to? We got up to 2.6 million actually, but we have pulled back on this one to 808,000. I actually added a little bit to my bag earlier, a couple hours ago on the pullback. So that is kind of how I'm playing these. I'm going to give you one more that is a little bit less certain, I would say, but has tremendous upside. It's lower cap. But I'm not buying when the charts are like freaking going crazy. Generally, on the way up, you see pretty sizable pullbacks. And this is kind of what we're seeing here, right? We saw this get up to 2.4 million, back to 800,000. So buying the dips, basically, is how I'm looking at these plays. And just being patient and waiting for good entry opportunities along the way, not FOMOing into crazy parabolic charts. That generally is not a good strategy. One last one I'll give you, and we're going to talk a little bit about DeepInt and 375 AI in particular. Atlas Forge. So this is one that's creating generative art. And again, same concept, doxed Web2 developer. So Johnny Miller here. He's had some interaction with Nat, the Felix developer. Okay. This one is a little bit different. It's creating generative art. They're doing basically auctions. It's creating artwork for other AI agents. I think there's potentially some upside here. I mean, it's the same type of structure. The path to revenue is just a little bit more uncertain. You know, that's the big difference here. But if you look at the market cap, 376,000. Well, I guess now it looks like, well, let's refresh this and see. 348,000. So this one I've been just adding on the dips. When we get down to like, let's see, I think we were down at like 170,000. Just added a little bit. I don't know if we'll get back down there again, but you know, this one's obviously lower cap, less certainty as far as path to revenue, but same type of play. And I think right now, like I don't think the AI agent meta is done, guys. I think we have potentially a lot more upside. One thing to keep in mind though with these plays is if we have a major issue in the market, let's say we start a war with Iran, you know, and everything crashes, these types of plays generally crash harder. We saw that when Bitcoin, actually I'll show you on the Kelly Claude chart here, or Felix, I'll show you Felix. When Bitcoin had that massive sell-off, you guys remember like a couple weeks ago, this guy dropped all the way back down to, let's see, what was the date back then? 700,000 market cap. Was that February 20th? No, this is before that. No, here's where it was right here. Yeah, this is where it was. Yeah, it got down to about a 300,000 market cap when we had that big sell-off happen. So those are the opportunities, in my opinion. These tend to get hit harder because I think they're a little bit more speculative, more out on the risk curve. Whenever you have events like that, like I have a list that I have favorited that I have my eyes on. Those are the ones I generally try to pounce on when we have some type of event like that. Can create really good buying opportunities. Because again, I mean, look at this one. That was literally 3 weeks ago. That has done now, that was the 300,000. That's when I was really tweeting about it. And that is now at a 15, 16x. So that is essentially how I'm looking to play these things. And I think that is currently the meta. You're doing a disservice if you're ignoring it. At the very least, I would be keeping an eye on these things. Doesn't mean you have to invest in it. It's up to you and your risk tolerance, of course. All right. Let's get into the DeepInt stuff, because my strategy, of course, In the short term, playing the upside and downside on the majors, finding that the alphas, we're crushing it on those two. DPIN is more of a longer term play, okay? Because these are something I'm buying on spot. I'm buying the dips. I'm accumulating my conviction plays. And when the market rebounds, I think that some of these can do really, really well. And that's what I did in 2022 and 2023. In 2024 saw like crazy mind-blowing returns on some of those investments. And I am basically taking the same recipe for finding those plays and applying it to current market conditions and finding the next round of plays that I think can go crazy. One of them is 375 AI. Okay. And let me give you the main factors that I'm looking for. Number one is solid team. Okay. That I think that's as important as anything. Is it a team that's performed before, that you feel are trustworthy, that can execute? Okay. So that's number one. Number two is, do they have product market fit? Can they enter into a market, generate revenue? Do they have a differentiator? What's their total addressable market? Like, do they have a path to getting there, to achieving sizable revenue? Number three would be early stage. You don't want high dilution. Okay. If you can catch these before unlocks to the teams, to their investors, you can crush it, right? That's the key here, is like before the dilution takes place, you want to be able to get into these, before all those unlocks. Number four is low market cap. I mean, that's pretty obvious, right? Like the lower the market cap, the more upside. So if you can find these like under 10 million market cap with all those other factors I just mentioned, those are the ones that can go absolutely parabolic. And then of course, lastly, is becoming more of a focus, I would say, is the tokenomic structure. Making sure there's some way that the value accrual from revenue goes into the token. Okay. And that is very important. Something that was majorly overlooked in the past that I think is now becoming a much more important item. But first, let's talk about 375 AI. So they shipped an update today. This is our boy, Harry Dewhurst, their CEO, of course. I have interviewed him on my channel, so you should check it out if you haven't already. But he said, before getting into AI and electronics, I was founder of numerous advertising technology companies, one of which he sold for over $300 million, by the way. One of which was backed by Unilever and Telefonica. He said, what we are doing at 375 is big. Okay, so they just shipped this update where they're working with these huge brands. In particular, this beta launch they just released within the last 24 hours is for Target stores. So I've seen some examples. If you go in and take a picture of a product on the shelf, you earn tokens. Now, the background here is that there are big brands that spend a lot of money, okay, to get people to go out to these different vendor locations and make sure that there's product on the shelf, okay, just to verify that they have product there. They're basically kind of taking over that role, if you will, with this app is what they're looking to do. And Harry Dewhurst, of course, using his connections, has been able to get in with some really big companies here. That could be some sizable revenue. And that's kind of the shorter term game plan, is to leverage this app in different ways to make money, to turn on revenue pretty quickly, really. And I think this is certainly a way to do so. Here's a video from our boy, Quez. By the way, we'll be on the DPIN Happy Hour tonight on the stream. This pump. It's like, okay. Target has a campaign right here. Go take a picture of this energy bar. So he goes and finds it. They've got AI baked into the app, so when he takes a picture, it can recognize whether or not he's taking a picture of the right thing. Verifying, boom, earn your tokens. So pretty sweet stuff there. Of course, that's part of the deal. Okay, that's part of what they're doing. They're leveraging the app in the short term to generate revenue with Harry's connections. The other bigger part, though, in the longer term view here, and where their massive amount of revenue is going to come from, is what they're doing with their 375 Edge device. So Outfront Media is the biggest billboard company in the world. If you're driving by a billboard next time, pay attention. There's generally an Outfront Media little emblem there in the bottom center. They have an exclusive partnership with this group. where they're setting up cameras, 6 cameras with NVIDIA chips on every billboard. Right now, they're focusing on where the ports are and in major cities, of course. That's where the data is going to be the most valuable. They're then taking that and they're selling it into a number of different entities. You have public safety, government, you have autonomous vehicle companies. They're trying to train their models. All that imagery and understanding traffic patterns matters. Freight and logistics, hence why they're near ports. You have quant traders. Guys, these quant traders pay crazy money for satellite imagery of retail parking lots. Okay, so filling in the gap here and understanding traffic, what types of cars are traveling where, and kind of piecing that all together to feed into their algorithms is huge. And then advertising agencies, of course, kind of same concept there. So these guys, Harry was also the CEO of Linksys, by the way, and was Forbes 30 under 30. The team he's constructed are the best of his colleagues from over the years. These guys, they don't have to work. Like they could be freaking retired 20 times over right now, but they're continuing to do this because they're passionate about it. And they see this as a massive opportunity. And I think that for sure this could be. And when you look at the fact that I couldn't find this website, this is a video I covered before, but their early investment rounds from their early seed investors that have been locked up now for years, bought in at a 55 million FDV or 5.5 cents on the ETH token. 375 AI launched their token right after October 10th. Right now, we're sitting at 1.66 cents. So you can literally invest right now at a third of the price of their early investors with zero lockup. And part of the reason why this token is down, A, market conditions, B, this right here, this Bitmart, which eventually there's going to be liquidity added or they'll get it delisted. But somebody's been arbitraging this token, buying in one place, selling in another to take advantage of the spread between the exchanges. And Bitmart has almost no liquidity. So they've been arbitraging the spread and pushing the price down. So to me, that's a short-term problem that I've been taking advantage of and accumulating, again, at a third of the price of their early investors. By the way, their unlock period for the team and investor starts in October, hasn't started yet, October of this year, and it's a 3-year vesting schedule. Okay, so buying it at a third of what their investors did with no lockup period, sign me up, man. So that is the thesis behind 375 AI, also why I'm very bullish on that project. Let's talk about Silencio. Silencio. So they started off collecting noise pollution data through their app. And at the time, I was like, cool project, not interested in investing in it. They pivoted, though, and they are now doing voice campaigns, which you can earn stablecoins for, by the way, where they collect voice data and they're selling it to AI companies. And they're seeing a tremendous amount of demand for this. And their total addressable market has exploded to the extent that their monthly revenue is eclipsing their market cap right now. Okay, so this is one that if you're paying attention to pivots in the market that the market hasn't figured out yet, you can find asymmetric trades. And this is how I'm viewing this. This is one of their founders. I did have them on a space, him and his brother, the co-founders. I'm also going to get them on for a video interview here pretty soon. But he said, while markets continue to be turbulent, we continue shipping things you can expect in February. So number one, optimizing the validator for voice AI recordings, so faster payouts, so they can confirm that the voice data that's collected is solid. They can sell it, get your payouts faster. SLC holder incentives, so you can earn more yield, earn more stable coins if you're a token holder. Launching new types of conversational data campaigns, and also a buyback and burn mechanism that hasn't existed before. So now all of a sudden they're adding all this extra utility to the token. Their revenue is exploding. And if you look at their market cap, man, it is under $2 million. So again, fits the mold, right? Low market cap before all the dilution. You have the total addressable market and path to revenue. You have the team behind it. Those are all the things that are in the low market cap, all the things that are the recipe for potentially outlandish returns. So both of those are ones that I have high conviction for. The next one is Auki. Not as low of a market cap. By the way, I should have my interview with Nils finally edited, the CEO of Aoki, should have that posted here, I'd say in the next 48 hours, man. So it was a very good discussion we had, but they are building the real world web. Essentially, when you look at robotics, and that's a big trend that people should be paying attention to. One second. Man, I'm parched. Robotics is a big trend right now. So they are building out the perception layer. When you think about robots, there's really three main areas, I would say. You have the locomotion, the movement of the robot, whether they're walking humanoids, whether they are on wheels, right? You have the perception layer, which is kind of understanding the environment they're in, being able to navigate that environment. And then you have manipulation, which is picking up objects and interacting with objects. They're building out that perception layer and understanding the environment the robot's in. And they have shipped products that are being utilized that are, 7-figure contracts already. They have 2 pilots launched with Fortune 500 companies in the US, paid pilots, and they're on the path to profitability, likely by June. So this is a project that should be on your radar. Again, it's going to be like an hour-long interview, but it's worth watching. Highly encourage you guys to check that out. Here's their website here. So they're combining basically your phone as a sensor, open source smart glasses, and then robots. And when you look at China versus the US, the US has a handful, in Europe too, a handful of robotics manufacturers that are not only manufacturing the robots themselves, but developing the software layer and kind of keeping it all closed source. And they're taking a little bit of a longer term approach to this, that you get it shipped to you out of the box. It's ready to go to do valuable things. China's taking a very different approach. They have a plethora of robotics manufacturers. They can do cool shit. You see them doing backflips and all that stuff, but they're open source, meaning they're like, hey, we're going to focus on supply chain, getting these things manufactured at scale. And then other people can figure out the software layer. And this would be an open source robot. You can plug your software in, you can make it do things. We're going to focus on the manufacturing aspect. Open source, very different than how the US and Europe are handling this. And Aoki's tapping into that. They're based out of Hong Kong. They're working with a lot of these Chinese robotics manufacturers. And if you look at their current market cap, they're sitting at just over $40 million. But again, haven't had the dilution yet. Their token's only been around since August of 24, so less than a year and a half. Hitting the robotics narrative, not as low of a market cap, right? So, when you get under the 10 million market cap, those are how you, especially like down below 5, that's how you can find your 50, 100Xs, guys. Once you get up to 40 million, you start doing the math. I mean, a 10X from here, not even counting dilution, you're looking at a $400 million market cap. So, of course, a little bit more limited upside here, but I think that Aoki is one that could do big things. And I think there is still plenty of upside. So one that I would certainly have some focus on, be on the lookout for that interview. One other one that's been on my radar just recently after ETH Denver is this Glow. And they are basically stepping in to be the bridge financier for solar farms. And they have a pretty good model here. I think their current token right now is at 6.5 million, something along those lines. Let's see here. Let me reload this page. Not delegate. I'm going to buy it. Here we go. Well, should be in here somewhere. Here we go. 6.7 million. This is one that I think could be undervalued. And their founder, you may know of him, David Dvorak. So he is an OG Bitcoiner. He was one of the co-founders of SIA. He is another one I'm going to be getting on for an interview. So upcoming interviews. We got David coming up. We got Silentio coming up. Also going to get Spexy. I haven't talked about them yet. I'll talk about them on an upcoming episode. They don't have a token yet, but it's a drone project where they're collecting imagery. They're paying stablecoins today and then selling that data. And they have some pretty big contracts in their pipeline right now. But Glow is one I'd have on your radar for sure. Talk about Helium here a little bit. Another example of how paying attention to the market really makes a difference. So Amir came out and talked basically, I'll give you the TLDR on this, but he said that their offload partners have better data now and can basically increase their spend with them. where they're being really conservative in the past. Now, the extra insights they've gained will allow them to increase their revenue spend. That announcement, of course, was on February 6th. You'll notice that marked the exact bottom here on HNT. After that announcement, it's been only up 100%. So just another example of how paying attention to these small details before the market knows about it can be a huge difference maker. And then one last one I want to cover before I leave you guys is Akash Network. And I've talked a little bit about this. I posted a video clip, I think yesterday, maybe 2 days ago, about the AI data centers and the power issue that we're coming up on with the grid. Not to mention, a lot of these AI data centers now are being shot down by local communities and being held up because people are voting against it, whether it's for concerns over energy costs rising, whatever it may be, water supply, it doesn't really matter. The big thing is we're seeing a lot of these AI data centers, which are expected to power the AI movement, get delayed. Okay. And Akash Network and some of these others are tapping into existing compute in a decentralized way to basically inference, at least. I wouldn't necessarily say train, but inference AI and some of these AI agents. And in particular, I think Akash is another one that is one worth keeping your eyeballs on. They've been around for quite some time, but Greg Osuri testified in front of U.S. Congress, so they're very aware of his project. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has spoken about how we need to rely on decentralized compute and blockchain for AI compute. They also announced a open market buy and burn that's coming to give utility to their token. Their revenue trajectory is on the right track, moving up pretty exponentially. And this is another one. I actually interviewed Greg. That one should be long. I want to get it posted this week, but I've been freaking busy, man. I'm going to get Aoki posted first with their CEO. And then Greg, I interviewed. He's also the founder of Akash Network here. So I'll get that posted hopefully this weekend, if not early next week, guys. But that was a really good interview. And I think this is another one when you're paying attention to something the market hasn't figured out yet, tremendous amount of upside potentially. Now, sitting at an $89 million market cap. So not a small market cap again. So you have to keep that in mind when looking at potential upside here, but well off of their all-time highs. This is mostly speculative valuations back here. Now they have something real. Revenue is growing. They can hit on the power constraint narrative, the AI agent narrative, and they have burn and mint equilibrium to add utility to their token that hasn't existed yet. So, all those things converging, I think, could be another asymmetric bet here. Looking forward through the rest of this year and a little bit further out, I think that they could bounce back in a major way. Oh, guys, that was a lot. Hopefully I wasn't talking too fast for everybody, but it's like, I got to get through all this, man. I got to get to the gym and back before Deep and happy hour. So went for my run this morning. I've been trying to throw in more cardio, but I got to get my lift on, man. Well, we will be back this evening, Deep and happy hour. I don't know who else can be on tonight. I think William will probably be on. Quez. We can ask him some questions about the 375 AI launch. And with that said, y'all, I'll probably hop on at some point this weekend for a stream. I'll send out an X post about it, and I'll get those interviews posted soon. Many more to come. Very exciting stuff all around. Thank you all. Love y'all. Peace.